Sometimes the most impactful people are the ones who work behind the scenes. His life is a reminder that success isn't always about being in the spotlight. It's about knowing the right decisions to make, understanding the bigger picture, and being willing to speak up when it matters the most.
Before we start the show, I have a quick question for you. Is your resume stuck in the rejection pile? At Resume Assassin, I create powerful resumes that showcase your skills, experience, and achievements, getting you noticed by recruiters. I'll also optimize your LinkedIn profile, transforming it into a magnet for opportunity. Visit resumeassassin.com today and take charge of your job search. Visit resumeassassin.com.
I hope you guys are enjoying my career stories series. I've been reading a lot lately, and I'm just absolutely fascinated by some of these stories. So I decided to turn it into a series where we dive into the lives of the most interesting people who shaped our world, not because they were household names, but because their careers and decisions had a major impact. So every week, we're going to explore the personal journeys, struggles, wins, and behind-the-scenes stories of some of these fascinating individuals. And some of you might know, and some, well, they'll be completely new to you. So today, we're kicking it off with someone whose career took him from the front lines of the Cold War to the corridors of power in Washington. His story is full of twists and secrets and even a kind of a touch of the bizarre. We're talking about Dr. Harold Malmgren. Dr. Harold Malmgren was not your average policymaker. In fact, he was the kind of person who saw the world differently than most, combining kind of a razor-sharp intellect with a deep understanding of geopolitics and economics. But his journey to becoming one of the most influential advisors in Washington didn't start in a grand office or like even a university hall. It started during the Great Depression, and it was shaped by one key lesson: survival. Malmgren grew up in upstate New York during a time when the United States was grappling with the harsh realities of the Great Depression. His family, like so many others, was struggling to make ends meet. But rather than let this break him, young Harold learned how to thrive in adversity. He had to. I mean, at one point, his mother, desperate to feed her family, sent him out to trap crabs along the coast for dinner. I mean, hardly the kind of childhood that would prepare you for the White House. But, that early experience of toughing it out, of having to provide in whatever way possible, became a core part of Malmgren's character. He learned resilience, resourcefulness, and adaptability. I mean, all qualities that would serve him well as he eventually became a trusted advisor to 4 different U.S. presidents. Yes, that's 4. Kennedy, Nixon, Ford, and Carter. Now, let's pause here for a second because you might be thinking, okay, great. He was just another Washington insider, right? Well, not really. I mean, Malmgren was no ordinary advisor. He was the kind of person who was involved in some of the most top secret meetings in history, providing counsel on issues that would shape the global economy, the global landscape. He was in the room during some of the most intense moments of the Cold War, including the Cuban Missile Crisis. But to understand just how deep his impact went, we need to take a closer look at his role during that pivotal crisis. So picture this, you guys. It was October 1962. Tensions between the US and the Soviet Union were at an all-time high, and the world was teetering on the edge of nuclear war. But here's where Malmgren's story gets really interesting, because he wasn't just an advisor on military strategy or even political diplomacy. No, his advice was rooted in economic strategy, specifically how to handle the fallout from such a global conflict. He was part of President Kennedy's inner circle as they navigated the 13-day standoff with the Soviet Union. He knew that the economic aftermath of a nuclear war would ripple across the entire globe, possibly tipping the scales in favor of the Soviets, given the USSR's control over critical resources like oil and natural gas. So Malmgren's advice was to strategize on a global scale. So beyond the immediate military concerns and focusing on how the US could maintain economic dominance, even in the face of catastrophe, the kind of big picture thinking became Malmgren's hallmark. So while others focused on military tactics, he was constantly asking, what's the economic angle? His ability to predict and understand the consequences of geopolitical decisions through an economic lens is one of the reasons he became absolutely indispensable to four US presidents over the course of his career. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Malmgren wasn't just advising presidents on the Cold War. He was also actively helping shape US foreign policy around the emerging economic powers of the post-war world. He played a key role in forging new international trade agreements that really laid the groundwork for the globalized economy we live in today. So, in fact, he was ahead of the curve, warning of the economic shift toward globalization long before it became mainstream political talking points. And what about his personal quirks, his unconventional ideas? As serious as his career was, Malcolm had a side that wasn't always predictable. I'm talking UFOs, you guys, and you heard that right. There was something that he believed in kind of the later years of his life, and he started talking about this publicly, about the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence. And while these ideas were considered far outside the mainstream, they added another layer to his kind of mysterious persona. What if UFOs are real? He once asked in a speech. He speculated that the technological leaps the world had made in the 20th century, especially in space exploration, might not just be a result of human genius, possibly alien influence. While we'll never really know the truth behind those claims, it's certainly an intriguing part of his story that adds a little mystery to his kind of otherwise grounded and strategic career. Now, let's jump into the late 70s when Malmgren was advising President Jimmy Carter. So by this point, Malmgren had influenced global trade agreements, sustained U.S. economic power through turbulent international markets, and counseled presidents on the changing political landscape. But Carter's presidency marked a new chapter. Malmgren was integral in advising on economic issues that involved the rising of influence from China, the oil crisis, and how to navigate global diplomacy in an increasingly complex world. He was there shaping the future quietly, but behind the scenes. Malmgren wasn't just an advisor, he was a shaper of policy. His work extended far beyond just advising these presidents. He helped build the very frameworks of economic diplomacy and trade relations that really underpinned the global order in the later half of the 20th century. And while his public persona was that of a quiet, kind of analytical figure, behind closed door, he was anything but quiet. He was not afraid to speak truth to power. Even if it meant going against the political grain, his ability to navigate through political turmoil, economic crises, and global shifts while keeping an eye on the big picture made him one of the most influential yet underappreciated figures in American history. So what can we take from Dr. Harold Malmgren's career? Well, I think it's simple. Sometimes the most impactful people are the ones who work behind the scenes. His life is a reminder that success isn't always about being in the spotlight. It's about knowing the right decisions to make, understanding the bigger picture, and being willing to speak up when it matters the most. In your own career, whether you're advising a global leader or just making strategic decisions in your everyday work, remember, it's not always about being the loudest voice in the room, but the one who can shape the narrative and anticipate what's coming next. And that's how you make a lasting impact, you guys. So I want to thank you again for listening to today's episode of Career Stories. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the life and career of Dr. Harold Malmgren. So be sure to join me next time. And, I'm going to dig into another fascinating story of someone who changed the world in ways that you might not expect. So until then, you guys, keep shaping your own career with the same foresight and boldness that made Malmgren's life such a remarkable one. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. I will be releasing episodes every Monday, so be sure to subscribe on the platform that you are watching this, give it a 5-star review, and we'll see you next time.